is up, guys? Coach Cheryl here with Fit Body Secrets, here to bring you guys this week's inspiration, education, and tips to help you guys on your fitness journey. In today's episode, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what you guys are going to be expecting to feel, or what you should expect to feel, experience, and all those types of things when you are getting ready to go into a calorie deficit, or you are in a actual fat loss phase. Because I think a lot of people, it can be like, I'm so motivated to lose weight. And then when you jump in, you're like, wow, I didn't realize this is what it's going to feel like. And it really should never be like miserable. We shouldn't feel like we're in what I would like to call, food or diet prison. But there are going to be some things that pop up that I want you guys to be aware that are going to happen along the way. And hopefully I'll be able to help troubleshoot some things so that those of you guys out there that might be experiencing them and feel like you're like, God, like, what am I doing wrong? Maybe you're not doing anything wrong. Maybe it's just part of the process. And maybe it's just, learning how to navigate it. So first things first, if you get any value out of this episode or any of my episodes, please shoot me a message, shoot me a DM, let me know that you're listening. If you have any specific topics that you want to learn about, also shoot me that message as well. I did recently start going onto Reddit, and I'm learning to, oops, I dropped my pen. Learning how to kind of use that to kind of help get some more information of what you guys are, figure out some more topics that you guys are looking for information on. Because my main thing is just obviously helping you guys all out. And making sure that you guys are successful, which is why I wanted to talk about this topic. So, and I don't have a lot of notes because I'm going to kind of wing it today, just because I think there's going to be a lot of things that come up as I start to go from one thing to the next. So first and foremost, if you are in a calorie deficit to lose weight, you are actually underfeeding your body. You are purposefully under eating. That is a true statement. So what you're likely going to experience initially is some hunger. So I think we should all realize that if we are trying to manipulate calorie intake, that we are going to be a little bit hungry, especially in the beginning when we first are changing our foods, that you're going to have days where like you are, it's 3:00 and you're like, oh, I want something. And typically if you weren't in a fat loss phase, you might just grab something. But when you are going into that fat loss phase, you're going to be like, no, I need to actually stick to my plan because I have a goal now. And this is where obviously first and foremost, you should be working with a coach or making sure that you're setting yourself up with a calorie and macronutrient count that's actually sustainable for you. And if you're doing it any other way, however you're doing it, you should be making sure that whatever changes you're making aren't drastic. We don't want to have this big drastic change. And I think that before I kind of go into other things, I want to start by just breaking that down a little bit. And I talked about this a lot in my Facebook group last week. If you're not in my Facebook group, join it. I talked about metabolic toggles, and people tend to put too much stress on the diet in the first week or two. They take a fast drop from calorie intake and then a fast increase in calorie output, and it causes way too much stress in the body. So you should be getting slightly hungry between meals. You should be kind of thinking about food a little bit, which is the second thing I'm going to talk to you guys about. Is you should be in a fat loss phase probably thinking about food a little bit more than you normally do. You are going to be getting signals from your brain like, hey, I'm hungry. Hey, when's the next meal? Hey, what am I having for next meal? That's normal. And you'll hear people like, I'm so tired of thinking about food. I just want to quit. Well, that's kind of part of what you're going through. Like your body is going to be sending you these signals like, hey, I need food. And it's going to put food on your brain. It's going to, especially because nowadays there's food on every single corner. You go to the gas station, there's food. You go to you pick your kids up from, school, there's probably snacks that you could buy them. There's always access to food. So realize that hunger and thinking about food are two things that are going to happen. And they're perfectly normal. Now, if you find yourself literally hungry every single day to where you're like having a hard time focusing, you can't even get past lunch without being over your calorie intake, you might be doing too quick of a drop. So if you are in this fat loss journey on your own and you're experiencing those things right off the bat, it likely means that you're likely a little bit too quickly. So I'm really talking about today's episode is what you should be feeling. I'll talk towards the end. Maybe I'll give you guys little things of what you shouldn't be feeling. Because that's what, as I just said, I'm like, I want people to understand that this is not meant to be miserable. This is meant to be sustainable. And that there are going to be some things that I also don't want you guys to be experiencing. So hunger, totally normal, as long as it's manageable. And you should be able to be like, all right, it's 1:00 now. I have a snack at 2:00. And that should be kind of the discipline you have. It shouldn't be, it's 1:00 now. Oh man, I'm already out of calories. Shit. I'm not gonna be able to eat anything else all day. That's gonna suck, right? So, and the same thing with the thinking about food. You should be thinking about food, but also it shouldn't be distracting you so much that like you can't even work. Like we don't want you that far off. So hunger and thinking about food are totally normal. Another thing that you guys are going to experience, and it's totally normal, is you're going to experience resistance. So you're going to be in social situations where you're like, you know what, like it's just not worth it to have that because I'm going to be freaking starving if I have the portion size that I'm allowed to have. So I'm just going to wait till I get home and eat because I'll be more satisfied. There's nothing wrong with that. That is you saying that you want to feel better. And that even though that might taste good in the moment, it's not going to make you feel satisfied. You are going to experience some resistance around social eating, social meals. And this is something that I am super passionate about. You guys, it is okay to focus on your goals and not worry about that, how that affects other people, because it shouldn't affect anybody else. Your goals are your goals, and what other people think about them doesn't fucking matter. And they're going to get comments, but at the end of the day, it's your goal, it's your journey. Don't stress about it. So you will experience some resistance. You're also, in that sense of resistance, going to have temptations. And I can put a plug in that, once again, your plan should allow you to have some things that you want. It should also allow you to have some indulgent meals. It should be making you make progress in a very sustainable, patient way, but it should also require you to sometimes say, hey, I know I'm tempted to have that, but I'm not going to have that because I know that's going to set me back. It's keeping that little bit of discipline, while still allowing yourself to enjoy yourself. So you are going to have some temptations. You're going to have some resistance. You're going to have some of those, comments from people. You're even going to have people that, maybe you think are supportive of you that are going to kind of give you those like, oh, why are you trying to lose weight? Like, oh, well, you're so disciplined. You're going to get those. It's just part of it. Like, you know what? You have to just be kind of calm. I like to call it thick skinned. You just got to be like, I really don't care. I'm doing it. Doesn't matter. Like what I'm doing should not matter to you. It's just the way it is. So we don't sit there, and you probably don't judge other people for their choices, which God, this is something that I'm also passionate about is why is it okay and normal for people to just like smash pizza and beer and wings? And like that's totally normal for people to overeat. But if a person's like, I want to keep myself dialed in because I'm working on this goal, like that's not good. Like it's totally normal to like, just it's okay and acceptable to just go be out until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, go on 2 to 3 hours of sleep and not give a shit. But then if you're like, you're crazy if you go to the gym, like it doesn't really make any sense. So double standards are just one of those other things I could literally go on a tangent about, but we're not going to go there. So hunger, talking about or thinking about food, a couple of biofeedback things that you're probably going to be experiencing, which is what I want to talk about, is you should be, so you probably will be, I should say, experiencing some changes in your GI. So whether that is going to the bathroom more frequently, or maybe you're noticing you're going to the bathroom less frequently, those two things are totally normal when you first start changing your nutrition, especially if you're coming from a very highly processed to a very clean type of eating, or if you're cutting back on fats a lot, or if you're adding in a lot of fats, like those things are going to really change up your gut microbiome. I mean, what do you expect, right? Like if you've been eating no fiber and then you add fiber in, that's totally going to add, a big change to your gut. It's a lot more work for gut to do. It's not a bad thing. It just means your body needs to adjust to it. So you have to kind of realize that, once again, changes should happen gradually. And if they're not happening gradually, you're going to have more of those symptoms. So you should be experiencing some level of GI changes. And some ways to kind of offset that is obviously smaller meals, kind of watching your increase in fiber intake. So don't go from like eating no fiber to like literally eating 50 grams of fiber a day. If you are making changes to your fat intake, that you're not dropping drastically, and just making sure that you're drinking enough water and keeping things flushing through. Protein can sometimes, if people are under eating protein and they start eating protein, it can cause some GI stuff going on. So you should be experiencing some GI changes as well. Other things you should be experiencing, and I'm going to say that they should be in a positive way, is for most people that are going into a fat loss journey, obviously they're coming from a place of usually overeating or just not dialing things in. Fewer cases, they might be under eating, but we should be seeing improvements in things like sleep. So sleep should be getting better. It should not be getting worse. If sleep is getting negatively impacted by your fat loss plan, then it means you probably need to be eating a little bit more, or maybe changing the type of your calories, or when you're eating your calories, meal timing a little bit. So, changing your macros can help that, but you should be actually sleeping better, not worse. If you're starting to sleep worse, it usually means something needs to change. Now, if you're trying to get that last like 5% body fat, super shredded, yeah, you are going to experience some negative feedback from that, but that's also not healthy and not what most people are looking for. So you want to actually be feeling like you're, getting better restful sleep is really what I'm trying to say. Um, Other things that you might experience in a fat loss phase is initially you might see a drop in your energy levels. I will say you should not call this, it should not feel like the quote unquote keto flu. So you should not be going from feeling like a star to all of a sudden like you're 30 pounds down on your weightlifting and you don't have the energy to run a mile. Like we shouldn't be seeing a big drastic drop, but will probably likely see initially maybe some energy changes. Once again, this should improve. For most of my clients, they don't get negative energy drops, but some people do. So if you do see that happening, just to kind of watch it, that we should be maybe getting a little bit initially, but it should start to taper off and actually improve. Um, you will see some energy changes. But the most things that you're going to see in a fat loss phase should be primarily positive in terms of like your mood, your motivation, all that kinds of stuff. If you are starting to get some of those negative feedback, which is totally normal in your fat loss phase where those things start to go down, this is the second piece of this episode that I want to talk to you guys about is that is normally when you need to say, all right, right now, my goal is weight loss. But in order for me to keep going on my weight loss journey, my body is saying, hey, I need a little bit of a reset. I need a little bit more calories. I need to get my biofeedback in a really good place so that I can actually get myself making that next step. So what I like to look at is this: weight loss is not linear. So I told you guys I was going to go off in tangents on this. So as I'm going over some of this feedback, these are things that are normal to experience in the beginning. But as we're losing weight and weight's kind of coming down, we're going to come to a place where we probably are going to hit a plateau. That's totally normal. Unless you only have like 5 to maybe 10 pounds to lose. But for most people, they're going to hit a plateau where things need to be adjusted. And sometimes they can drop calories a little bit more and go back down if biofeedback and all of this hunger and cravings and all that stuff is normal. But if not, it might be, let's take a little break and let's bring calories up a little bit. And I like using my pen right now just because I'm holding my pen if you're watching me on YouTube. Let's take a little break. Let's bring calories up. Let's sail here for a little bit. Let's bring up the biofeedback and we're going to bring calories up a little bit so that now we can drop them down and we don't have to drop them lower. We can just bring them up and then cycle them back down again. This is calorie cycling essentially. But then that's actually a good thing. So the second piece of this episode is kind of talking about some of those other things you're going to experience on your weight loss journey is the mental stuff, the frustrations, and then how to break through these plateaus. So the frustrations of, the weight loss plateaus and, the frustrations of like trying to learn a new skill, that is all totally normal. So when you first start your nutrition journey, if you're like, this is so much, like trying to track my food, trying to make sure I'm weighing myself, trying to hit my protein, like that's totally normal to feel that way. The faster you dive in and just do it, the quicker the overwhelm will go away. And hands down, the number one tip I will give anybody is just plan your food ahead and keep it simple. Those two things. So don't try and create fancy recipes. Don't try and make it super complicated. Literally hop in MyFitnessPal, plan your day ahead of time and move on, because that takes out all the overwhelm, all the stress, all the frustration. But you are going to experience some initial like resistance of mentally like, oh my God, this is like a lot of work. And I'm trying to that's totally normal. Most people have no idea how the food they're eating affects their body from a physical perspective, how they look, how they feel mentally, none of it, how they actually feel their best, what foods make them actually feel energetic and good, and which foods actually make them feel bad and just guilty. And they don't even know that stuff. They just see bad and good. They don't actually look at things. But when you actually have an app and you're tracking foods and you're actually like associating with like, okay, man, I had a kick-ass workout yesterday. Work went so awesome. Like everything felt really good. Now you're learning. And that's so important for people to understand. So You will have some frustrations. You will have, some times where like you're like feeling overwhelmed. That's totally normal. And going into this frustration piece, like I told you, I'm going to go on some tangents, is people are going to get frustrated when, like, for a lot of people, they'll lose weight pretty quickly that first couple of weeks or couple of weeks because they are cutting out a lot of processed foods and things like that. But it's meant to slow down, which is something else you're going to experience on your weight loss journey, is this slowing effect. That's normal. You are not going to be losing 3 pounds every single week for the next 6 to 12 weeks. It's just not going to happen. Your body's not going to allow that to happen because you'd be losing more than just muscle or more than just fat. You're going to be losing muscle, water, and other things, and your body's not going to want that. So know that like the rate of weight loss is going to go down, and that's going to feel frustrating. And you're going to have these plateaus, and it's going to feel frustrating. And you're going to have days where it feels overwhelming. It's going to feel frustrating. Those are all totally normal things. You are not this like failure at this. You are not able to do this. It's not too much for you to handle. What you need to do is say, whoa, take a second, like breathe, patience, figure out what matters most. And this is where a lot of times with my clients, I'm like, listen, I just want you to focus on this and this. And the ones that do that are like, okay, I can do that. But the ones that are like, this is too much for me, and they just shut down, don't get anywhere. Because this is really actually very, very simple. What I teach is a very simple method, very flexible, very much able to allow you to enjoy your social life and all those types of things. But it does require a person to be like, all right, I'm going to do this. That's simple, So I think that the frustrating part is something that people don't really talk about, and it's important to talk about it because it's perfectly normal. It's totally fine. Along with lack of motivation is going to come. And what I will always remind people is motivation is the worst thing to rely on. You just have to remind yourself of why you're doing this, and just to remind yourself that you go to work for other people when you're not motivated. So you can go to work for yourself when you're not motivated. And you're going to be way happier when you get through the day, right? Just like when you go to work and you didn't want to go, and at the end of the day, you made it through and you made another day, made another dollar. Same thing with your nutrition journey. You made another day, you made another dollar. So that's all part of the process. Other things you're going to experience on your weight loss journey is obviously some good things. You're going to have people commenting on your body, but that can also not feel very comfortable. I often tell people that it's not okay to comment on people's bodies because of that reason. So it makes you feel a little bit self-conscious. And I think that learning how to navigate that, not from a good or bad perspective, but like, how does it make you feel and how to respond to it? And, simply just being polite and saying thanks, or, whatever. You don't have to go into too many details. You never have to explain your journey to anybody. So just always know, like, what do you actually feel good about? For most people, I'm like, thanks. I'm working with a nutrition coach, and we've been, doing this stuff, and I feel really good right now. You never have to experience or explain yourself to other people. So far what I've covered today, and I'm going to kind of recap it because, like I said, I knew I was going to kind of go all over the place, because just like weight loss isn't linear, my explanation of it is not going to be linear. Is you're going to get some hunger, you're going to have temptations, you're going to be thinking about food sometimes, you're going to be thinking about food probably more than you have in the past, because at the end of the day, bringing awareness to where the problem is how we fix the problem, right? So you're going to have comments from others, you're going to have some frustrating times, you're going to have some lack of motivation. These are all totally normal on your fitness journey. And you're going to have plateaus. It's going to happen. And the most important thing to remind yourself is that as long as you stay committed and you keep doing the work, and you remind yourself that this stuff is all totally normal, and it's not starting over again, and it's not, this isn't working, then you are going to see results, and you're going to get to where you want to be. But the second you tell yourself that it's too much and you quit, you're going to quit only to restart again some other day, some other plan, and end up in the same situation. Hungry sometimes, wanting to eat foods that you shouldn't be eating sometimes, having days where you eat those foods, and having days where you have to say no. So it's all part of the journey. And at the end of the day, I know people talk a lot about the journey is more important than the end result. The real truth is that obviously we're going to be happy when we like how we look and feel, but the pride comes from knowing that, like, you got through it all. You made it to the other side. The failure feelings come from being like, nothing changed. And I actually thought about this the other day, as I was going to post it on social media, but I didn't really know how to put it in a reel. And I probably will at some point this week. It's like, I think that what's harder than failing is like people that try something like coaching or working with a, nutritionist or something, and they're doing this plan, but they're not doing the work. They keep kind of starting and stopping and starting and stopping and never actually really giving it 100% or not following the advice of the person. And they decide to quit. It's really hard to quit. I know that because deep down inside, you kind of know, man, I should have given that 100% and I just couldn't. I just was too stressed. But I think what's harder is quitting and then watching other people succeed with that same thing. Because then it makes you feel bad about yourself. Then it's like, why was I different? Why was I wrong? And you weren't. Nothing was wrong with you. Nothing was different about you. It's just that person decided to have all of these experiences that happened in their journey and just kept going. And rather than making an excuse for why they couldn't do things, they found ways to make it work for them. And that's where there's not going to be one journey that's going to look the same as everybody else's. So even all these things that I'm writing down here, that's experiences that I know people experience, that I've experienced myself, but everybody's going to experience it in their own different way. A couple of things I didn't think about even talking about here though is you're going to have other feelings as well. Like I think that when I was really in a cutting phase, I knew when I was losing weight because I felt lighter. And the only reason I'm going to mention that is because sometimes people will feel that way. They feel like they're in the deficit, they feel the changes, but they'll get on the scale and they don't see it the next day. Don't let that stress you out because that likely means you are losing weight. But that maybe there's some other things factoring into the weight that morning. So don't let that sabotage you. So that's pretty much it today, guys. A little talk about the weight loss journey. And obviously, not to put a plug in for coaching, but if you are struggling with getting on a plan that is actually sustainable for you, or you're tired of like the 20 to 30 days of doing something only to quit again, shoot me a message, shoot me a DM. Would love to hear from you guys and be able to help you guys out. So have a great day.